Yo, 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 what's up, you guys? It's K8 here, and today we're gonna make this sound inspire. So that's what we'll be making, and what I'll do is I'll throw up the preset for you guys to go ahead and pause the video and copy and get it all down, so that way we can make a new patch together and I'll explain the things I did and why I did them. And of course, before we get started, I just want to say that this is the first preset from my new Spire Bank, so by the time you see this, that should be out, and I'll have links in the description on all the places you can get that. So if you support that, that'd be a great help to me, and I can keep doing this more and more often. So let's get started. Alright, so let's get started. Let's make this patch. So as you can see, this is just Spire by itself, and there is an auto filter on the track just to create a filter kind of cut off automation effect. That's just an effect on the sound that comes in one part. So let's actually go to initialize patch now. Let's go ahead and start this one over. So initialize now. So what I would do, where I would start, is kind of my voicing. So I want to make sure that I set this to mono, and I will also go here to the bend range, the pitch bend range, and I'll put this up an octave both ways. I'll turn off drift, put a little bit of this on. I don't remember how much I had before, but usually I'll play it and figure it out and adjust it to taste. So that's kind of how I get my notes to kind of glide to each other, which is a nice characteristic. And let's also turn on a little bit of XComp, take off boost because that's not something I ever want. Let's mute the things where we're not going to use. So delay, reverb, I might not use. I know there was reverb on the other one, but I have this going to a reverb send, which I'll show you at the end. And we're going to just use two oscillators. And there's going to be some mapping things, or some modulation things, I should say. Not mapping. That we're going to do to the pitches of those oscillators. So we're going to just go ahead and select those now. So we're going to put oscillator 1 and 2's pitches on an envelope, so we'll adjust this later, even though it's pretty much going to look something like this. So far, I'll go ahead and play you this the way it sounds now, just initialized with one basic saw on an oscillator. And keep in mind that I'm playing this on a F3 on my keyboard, so that way you can kind of just play the exact same note and follow along and make sure everything's sounding the same for you. And let's go ahead and play it as it is now. Alright, so what I want to do maybe with the first oscillator, kind of similar to what I did in the other one, is I kind of want to make it a little bit more square. So Control A kind of adds in a square kind of shape to this, so we can kind of morph the shape a bit. So that's a pretty cool feature for the classic oscillators. B kind of does something interesting where it kind of moves the position, the starting position, as you can see. So I don't know if I want a little bit of this or not. I don't remember exactly how I had it on the other one, but basically I'm going to be doing all the same techniques everywhere else, so it's going to pretty much sound very similar. So let's leave it at this. Let's see what that's like. Alright, cool. So we're not going to be doing any detuning to this. We can bring up width a bit, and we can just make sure it's routed to filter 1. This isn't the kind of patch where I would apply a lot of detuning. Just essentially, it's not really a kind of detuned sound. It works much better when it's kind of more clean and not so detuned and spread out and that kind of stuff. So that's also why we're not going to put up width too much. So let's go ahead and add in the second oscillator. So let's go ahead and bring this volume up a bit. Alright, so now for oscillator 2, we're going to kind of keep it similar to what we did in the first oscillator. We're not going to detune it too much or anything like that. One thing I did do was I went to the saw PWM, and I changed this a bit. So I don't remember what wave exactly I went for, but I did mix in a little bit of a wavetable. So I think it was like a triangle or something like that. Something that was kind of harmonic. So we don't have to go for the same one. We can just kind of do it by ear. So let's go ahead and listen to this and kind of adjust this. And let's turn off oscillator 1 while we do that, so we can just listen to oscillator 2 by itself. Let's move on to our effects. So the filter was something I did kind of towards the end, and I think other than that, all the envelopes I added in also came in sort of at the end. So I'm gonna try to follow the order in which I made this originally. So let's go to, I usually go down the line. So I put my shaper, then phaser, then chorus, and reverb is kind of the last thing, obviously. So for this, I do remember choosing a particular type of distortion. I remember going with like a feedback try, or maybe it was a sine. But let's listen to this and hear it how it sounds right now before we actually add it in, and I'll start adding it in. Really, it's a combination of the shaper and the phaser that really make the characteristics of this sound. So that's actually why we keep the oscillators so simple. So the oscillators are not detuned, they're not that wide, and they're kind of just very simple waves that kind of just combine together. So it's a really simple patch. So let's move on to the phaser and get that down. So before we do that, let's actually just play this, and I'll add the phaser in as we go. But it's I pretty much know what I'm going for here. Usually a vowel low is what I want, or I'll play around with the mid and the high vowels settings in the phaser. So in stages, you can click on some of the vowel modes, and those are really, really my favorite thing about Spire. So let's go ahead and listen to that. So you can see that I played around with the rate. I kind of tried to find a rate that didn't feel like it was too fast, and obviously I didn't want it too slow because then it wouldn't really work for me. And I kind of adjust the rate and depth side by side. So I tweak the rate for a bit, adjust the depth, and just kind of find whatever sounds nice. Feedback is kind of the same way. After I do the rate and depth, I like to find the feedback position that isn't really too obvious, but it's still there a little bit. From here, everything else is honestly tweaking, so adding filters and chorus and reverb and playing around with modulation. Those are just like bonus little touch-ups. So we're really close to being done, actually. So let's keep going down the line. Let's add in our chorus. So let's go ahead and add a bit of this. Usually I kind of set the dry wet to like halfway or like a quarter of a way, and then start tweaking from there. I know already I don't want too much of the effect on the low end, so I'm just going to put that halfway. And delay and all that. We'll just go ahead and play around with this. So let's listen to it before and then just start tweaking it. And let's do that. So chorus obviously works a lot better when you have a lot of voices and a lot of things that are already sort of detuned. So because we weren't detuning so much, I feel like that's why I added in chorus after I added in the phaser and the shaper, because I felt like I just wanted a bit more of that, and I didn't really want to change the oscillators and add detuning there and more voices there. So that's why I have chorus here, and kind of just adjusting the rate and depth together again, adding a little bit of width, playing around with the modes, and low cutting some of the effect, and that's pretty much it. So let's go to reverb. So like I said, I went with an external reverb send, and I didn't really want to use the reverb inside of Spire, but just in case you want to use reverb Spire, this is kind of what I would go for. I would really bring the decay down so that it doesn't ring out after the notes have stopped. So what I do a lot is I'll hit the space bar just to kind of let the sound start and stop a lot, and that lets me hear the tail and kind of get an idea of what I want. So I want a short decay and kind of low dry wet and a little bit pre-delay. And I said I like plate 2. In Spire, I do prefer to use the second plate for mode instead of the first one. I don't know why. Just my ear likes it better, I suppose. So now I guess we're just gonna go into the tweaking part of this. So we're gonna add some of we're gonna play around with our envelopes and LFOs and kind of play around with the EQ, and I think we're done. So let's go ahead and just do that as I listen in on it. And of course, I mentioned that I have a reverb send, so I like to use my favorite reverb, which is this one right here, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know about. It's on my other screen right now. So this is, of course, everyone's favorite reverb. Really check this site out and look at some of their stuff. So you can see my settings here. I won't really go into it because sometimes I just preset browse and then I just sort of adjust it a bit. So I think what I might have done is just bring down decay and mix a bit from this preset right here. So yeah, that's everything I did. I throw a gate after it, so I sidechain it to the original patch, and that way it doesn't go too out of control and it kind of stays tight with the patch and the notes that are playing. So that's everything I did. Hopefully you guys like this. Thanks guys for watching, and of course, late.